Let me ask you something. How many hours have you spent this week planning, researching, and preparing for things you haven't actually started yet? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Overthinking isn't productivity. It's procrastination wearing a disguise. And the worst part? It feels so legitimate that we convince ourselves we're making progress when we're actually standing still. Today we're going to expose this trap and show you why imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time. The paralysis of analysis. Let's talk about what I call the preparation paradox. You want to start a YouTube channel, so you spend 3 weeks researching the perfect camera, the ideal lighting setup, studying algorithms, watching tutorials on editing software, and creating the perfect content calendar. Meanwhile, someone else grabs their phone, records a simple video with decent lighting, posts it, and starts learning what actually works. 3 weeks later, you're still planning. They've published 10 videos and already have their first 100 subscribers. This is the paralysis of analysis, and it's destroying your progress. Here's what's really happening in your brain. When you're planning and researching, you get tiny dopamine hits. You feel smart, prepared, and in control. Your brain rewards you for this behavior because it feels like you're reducing risk. But here's the problem. That same dopamine reward is what you'd get from actual achievement, except you haven't achieved anything yet. The brutal reality is that overthinking is comfortable. Action is scary. When you're planning, you can't fail. The moment you take action, failure becomes possible, and your brain will do everything. The compound effect. Now let's talk about what you're actually losing when you choose overthinking over action. Imagine two people who both want to get fit. Person A spends 2 months researching the perfect workout program, the optimal diet, the best supplements, and the ideal gym schedule. Person B simply starts doing 20 push-ups every morning and goes for a 30-minute walk. After 2 months, Person A finally feels ready to start. They have the perfect plan. Person B has been working out for 60 days. They've built a habit. Their body has adapted. They've made mistakes and corrected them. They've learned what actually works for their schedule and their body. They're already seeing results. More importantly, they've developed something Person A doesn't have: momentum. This is the compound effect of action. Small, imperfect actions taken consistently will always outperform perfect plans that never get executed. Every action you take teaches you something. Every mistake is data. Every small win builds confidence and momentum. When you're stuck in overthinking mode, you get none of these benefits. You're learning in theory while others are learning in practice, and practice always wins. Learning by doing. Here's something that nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to understand. You cannot think your way to mastery. You can only act your way there. Think about learning to ride a bike. You could read every book ever written about cycling, study the physics of balance, watch 1,000 tutorials, and understand the biomechanics perfectly. But the first time you actually get on that bike, you're still going to wobble. You're still going to be uncertain. And you know what? That's exactly how it should be. The learning by doing advantage is that mistakes teach you faster than any amount of preparation ever could. When you launch that imperfect product and get real feedback, you learn more in 1 day than you would in a month of imagining what customers might want. When you have that awkward conversation you've been rehearsing in your head, you discover that reality is never as bad or as perfect as you imagined. The gap between what you think will happen and what actually happens is where all the real learning lives. Every expert you admire got there through action, not through perfect planning. They made embarrassing mistakes. They launched things that flopped. They said stupid things in front of people. But each of those experiences made them better in ways that thinking never could. Your overthinking is robbing you of these crucial learning experiences. The practical framework. So how do you break this cycle? Let me give you a framework that actually works. It's called the 5-minute rule, and it's devastatingly simple. Whatever you've been overthinking, commit to taking just 5 minutes of imperfect action on it today. Not 5 minutes of planning, 5 minutes of actually doing. Want to start that business? Spend 5 minutes drafting the absolute worst, most embarrassing version of your first social media post. Want to learn an instrument? Pick it up and play random notes for 5 minutes, even if it sounds terrible. Want to have a difficult conversation? Send the text saying, "Hey, can we talk?" right now. 5 minutes. That's it. Here's why this works. The hardest part of any task is starting. Once you've started, continuation becomes easier. Those 5 minutes break the overthinking spell because you've crossed from the world of theory to the world of reality. And here's the secret. Most of the time, you won't stop at 5 minutes. Once you're in motion, you'll keep going. But even if you don't, 5 minutes of imperfect action is infinitely more valuable than 5 hours of perfect planning. The imperfect start method is built on one simple truth. A messy beginning beats a perfect start that never happens. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions. They don't exist. What exists is right now, and right now is the only moment where action is possible. So here's your challenge, and I want you to take it seriously. Right now, think of one thing you've been overthinking. Maybe it's a project you've been planning for months. Maybe it's a conversation you've been rehearsing in your head. Maybe it's a skill you've been preparing to learn. I want you to take one imperfect action on it within the next 24 hours. Not a perfect action, not a planned action, an imperfect, messy, maybe even embarrassing action. Send that email you've been drafting in your head. Post that content you think isn't good enough. Start that project without having all the answers. Make that phone call. Take that first step. Do it badly. Do it scared. Do it imperfectly. But do it. Because I promise you, 1 year from now, you won't remember how imperfect your first step was. You'll only remember that you actually took it. And that's the difference between people who overthink their lives away and people who actually build something real. Stop thinking, start doing. Your future self will thank you.